As you can tell, we're going to be looking at passive voice. Now, for those who completed their work during the week, they would have seen that there's a fresh set of content to do after the exam. Now, this takes us to passive voice in present and future. The passive voice, just like all other forms of English, will have different tenses. So the tense form we're going to be looking at are these. We're generally going to look at the passive voice, and we'll then dive a little bit deeper into the different tenses we can use in the passive voice. I also sent you guys a longer video that breaks down the active and passive some more so that you can see it more in detail. That one that I just shared was kind of just to give you a teaser, all right? And actually that one focused on switching back to active. When we think the active voice, we're generally saying one person acts in a particular way. The passive voice is doing something very different. Now, there is a reason why we use the passive voice. There is a focus change that we want to have with the passive voice. And like we've done in sessions before, we're going to look at the uses of the passive voice and how we can make the best use of it. In this unit, we will have a forum, which I'll open up at the end. And so if you get your practice in early, you should be able to take advantage of these new things you're learning: writing, speaking, practicing your listening, and also, putting it to work with the forum. All right, thank you for you guys who have started the attendance. Remember, full names and group in the chat. Now, structure-wise, when you look at the passive voice, you're saying that the focus of your sentence is 100% not the person, but the action. All right, so active voice usually is speaker does action. So of course there the focus is on the subject. When we focus on the action, we're using the passive voice. So he is the focus. He ate all the cookies. All the cookies were eaten. The focus is on eating the cookies. All right, so structurally, we're going to be using the verb to be as our helping verb and participle. We were using the verb have before. We're focusing now on the verb to be. If you did not practice all of those irregular verbs, go back and look at the past participle list so that you are very, very comfortable with the participles. All right. When it comes to the use of participles, I'll drop you some more tools so you can jump and dive, particularly with the passive voice. There are lots of different ways you can switch and move around the passive voice. You also need to remember who is doing the action so you can eliminate it. So if you see an active sentence, it's not really important to reinsert the person. We're really only focusing on the action. So if you see a subject or object pronoun, you can't eliminate it, but you have to know which one is the object pronoun or which one is the subject pronoun. So you can always go back and look here. Okay. So structure-wise, you're gonna move what was your object pronoun to the beginning. Make sure your verb follows the structure rule of passive, which is verb to be plus participle. And you'll be identifying the time of your sentence, so you rewrite your sentence in the same time. And if necessary, you can use by and for to re-include the actor. You don't always have to do it, but this is sometimes good to do. We have some samples here. The speech is written, verb to be, is to match the speech. It is written from the verb write, and the who. Right? The house was built. The house, it was, because it's past, was built in 1975. Time is really helpful since we're focusing on the action. My wallet has been stolen. Notice this is in a present perfect format, right? So we still have our verb to be here. Has been stolen, right? The room will be cleaned. Here we're going into the future while you are out. So now you are there. When you go, the room will be cleaned, right? All of these shows different times, present, past, present perfect, future, all of them showing that we can focus on the action and use our passive voice to make the emphasis. All right, now, of course, there is a reason. So let's dive in. Make sure everyone is in. No one is stuck in the waiting room. Okay, good. All right, let's start with Josue. To change the sentence from active to passive, read for us.
Yeah, sure. To change the sentence for active one to passive one, there are several points to keep in mind. The object of an active voice sentence becomes a subject of the sentence in the passive. The principal verb in the active voice is
Substituted.
substituted, thank you, by actually verb to be in the same verb tense, and the verb is then in the past participle form. The subject in the passive voice becomes the complete in the passive. If in the passive we mention the subject who complete the action, subject agent, this subject is normally introduced in the passive with the preposition by.
Right. For example,
Example, Matt, active voice. Matt
Mark Twain.
Twain, thank you, wrote the book. Passive voice. The book was written by Mark Twain. Active voice. The housekeeper will clean the room. A passive voice. The room will be cleaned by the housekeeper.
Right. Notice the transformation, guys. 1. The object of an active sentence will become the subject. Here, the object, which is at the end after your verb, was the book. The book becomes the subject. Number 2, the principal verb in the active voice is substituted by the auxiliary verb to be. Wrote was your principal verb. We notice that the tense of the verb wrote is past tense. So, one book, the book, corresponds to third person. So the third person past is was. And the verb wrote, which comes from the verb to write, goes into participle form, which is now written. Now, the subject in the active sentence can become a complement, which means it is not necessary in the sentence. It is additional to the main idea. We could have stopped here. The book was written, full stop. But we wanted to introduce this complement, particularly since it was a subject agent, an active doer. So we say by that person. All right. So the book was written by Mark Twain. When do we use this form? All right, let's start at the top of the list with Miss Acuña Lopez Yaira. Use number 1.
We use the passive voice when we do not know who complete the action. Examples: a civilian has been killed. The car was stolen.
All right, notice we don't have a by because we don't know who was the subject agent. We don't know who the actor was. All right, so we don't have a person. So we focus on the action. Mario, number 2.
We use the active voice when we want to give more information
More
to the action,
importance.
more important to the action, and not who complete the action, or when we don't want to say who complete the action.
Okay.
Examples: the letter was delivered yesterday. A mistake was made.
Right. Now, if our verb is going to be intransitive, a verb that shows a direct relationship between an actor and the receiver, then we can't use the passive voice because we have to show how the story ends. All right. When we have direct objects, we can use the passive voice. When we don't have direct objects, then there's no direct object to put at the beginning. All right, so for example, he died. There's no complement. I just arrived. There's no complement. We should go to the park. All of those sentences that I just used don't have a direct object. All of those show one actor completing their action. And all of what I'm using in those sentences are a direct relation to the actor. Therefore, for sentences where we have intransitive verbs, we cannot use passive voice. However, there are other opportunities to use, all right? So we saw these two. Right? Popular verbs that we will be using are things like that. Right? So 1, we want to change the focus of the sentence. 2, when the who is not important. Another few uses are here. Right? This time, let's go to Zaud. Number 3.
¿Yo?
No, Zaud. I'll come
Ah.
back to you, Saul. Yes, Mr. Lopez, go ahead.
What number?
Number 3, because we did number 1 already. We said 1, when we want to change the focus, we want to make sure that the action is more important. We practiced that already. We also don't want to mention the who. We practiced that already. Number 3.
In factual or scientific writing, the chemical is placed in a, I can see.
No? In a test tube?
Oh, I
screen,
can see all.
the screen is locked?
Yeah.
Very strange. Right, I'll read the example. The chemical is placed in a test tube and the data entered into the computer. Now, if you're doing an experiment, you would more than likely use the passive voice. You're not talking about the who, you're talking specifically about the actions, your observations. All right? Saul, can you see the screen? Sanchez Para?
Sí.
Okay, number 4.
Okay. Informal reading is that of using someone people they text can be used in speaking or informal writing. The brochure will be finished next month.
Good. So say we are replacing people, particularly when we're, sending an email and you were asked a few questions. When will the report be done? When will you finish your exams? Oh, my exams will finish. The exams will be done. All right, you can use this form there as well. All right, Isabel, number 5.
In order to put the new information at the end of the sentence to improve style. 3 books are used regularly in the class. The books were written by
Written.
Dr. Bell. Okay, right.
Written.
Okay. Dr. Bell wrote the books sound clumsy.
Okay. Yeah. If you say Isabel is an amazing dentist, and we repeat again Isabel at the beginning there, it just sounds like we could have just put a comma and continue talking about Isabel. So one thing we could do to make our sentences sound better would be to change how we have our subjects and our objects in our sentences. For example, a graduate from UNAM, Isabel has a bachelor's degree in dentistry. The dentistry program at UNAM had prepared her, blah, 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 blah. So you don't repeat the subject agent, you have a nice mix of style, right? And Fernanda, number 6.
When the subject is very long, I was surprised by how well the student did in the test. More natural than how well the student did in the test surprised me.
Good. All right. How long the students did is a very long subject. All right. So you might want to switch around what comes first. All right. So these are some examples of when to use the passive voice. All right. Now remember, be very careful when you're seeing your active sentences to make the jump over and carry the same tense. So if you see present, make sure your verb to be is in present. All right. Now the focus of this particular unit is present, future, and a little bit of present perfect. All right. So let's do some exercises to see if you're understanding those and give you some time to practice on the portal as well. All right. I'm also going to be sharing these tools with you so you can see some more of the conversions. All right. The participle form is super, super important. So if you had not looked at the participle form before, go back and check all your verbs so you know how to transform your verbs into their participle form. All right, that's a link over here as well. All right, so practice. Let's start with Paula. you're going to be transforming your sentence. Notice the time expression so you know which one to make your transformation. Go ahead, Paul. Oh, we're not hearing you, Paula. Are you speaking? I think your microphone must be busted. We're not hearing you at all. All right, go ahead and try writing it in the chat. We'll come back to you. After Paula, in our list, we had Dana. Dana, number 2.
The students.
Number 2, Dana, while Paula does number 1.
Okay. A new highway was I don't know.
Okay, good. At least you're going in the right direction. You know you need your verb to be, and you know your verb will become constructed. Good. The only thing you will change is the verb to be to match next year. Next year is past, present, or future.
Future.
Future. So you will use will
Okay.
be, and then your verb in participle form. Right? Again,
Yeah.
number 2.
A new highway will be constructed next year.
Next year.
Next year.
Good. All right, Paula, I'm not sure what's going on with your mic, and I don't see any response from you. All right, there we go. The students will be given. You think it's will be, you think it's future? All right, your time expression tells me something else. Your time expression says every day. So yes, will be given homework every day, or is given because it's a routine. Either of those would work. All right, I'd go with present simple because it matches with routines better than with future simple. All right, so the students change is to are because students is plural. The students are given homework every day. All right, Gustavo, number 3.
The project was completed by this coming Friday.
Okay, that's number 4. By this coming Friday. Present, past, or future?
Future.
Future. So what do we use for future? Will be
Will be.
completed. All right, again?
The project will be completed by this coming Friday.
Good. All right, let's go back to number 4. Renata, number 3, sorry.
The house was cleaned
Good.
yesterday.
Nice. All right, and Sophie. Sophia, number 5.
4. Sorry.
Number 5.
The law.
Go ahead. The law.
Review.
All right. What does at the moment tell me? Is it present simple or present continuous?
Simple.
At the moment is actually used when we're doing something in the moment, ing. We are talking at the moment. We're having English class at the moment. So this is usually a continuous form. So is being present continuous, right? And then we transform our verb. Practice with me. The law is being reviewed by the committee at the moment.
Okay. The law is being reviewed by the committee at the moment.
Good. All right, let's do some more. Let me go back to Mario. All right, you have some sentences. You make sure you can see the whole thing. All right, we have some active sentences here. Let's make them passive. For example, the main sentence or the active sentence was Mark Twain wrote The Adventures of Tom Sawyer in 1987. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer is the object, so we know that will become the subject. The verb was wrote, which means past tense plus write. Past tense was, write becomes written, and the time in 1987. If we want to include the subject agent, we will use by. All right, so for example, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer was written in 1876 by Mark Twain. Here is the first one. I'll start with you, Mario. They make many movies in Hollywood. Many movies is your object.
Okay, the many movies
Mhm.
are made
Good.
in Hollywood by
By them.
them.
Remember, it was subject, it becomes object. Many movies are made in Hollywood by them. Subject pronoun becomes object pronoun. All right, Mr. Lopez.
Yeah, me.
You're the only one.
Okay. The students will give a presentation tomorrow. So a presentation
Mm-hmm.
presentation will be
Mm-hmm.
given
Correct.
tomorrow by the students.
Perfect. Good. All right, Isabel.
My bike has been stolen.
Indeed, that must have been some evil people. Why would they steal your bike? All right, Josue.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Um, the newspaper is received every day.
Mm-hmm. That is it. And if you want to include your subject agent, you'd be by us. We becomes us. All right? Complementary. If you don't want to, you can leave it. All right, number 5, Mr. Sanchez Para.
The cookies
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Haven't ate the children?
Have been
Have
eaten.
been.
Always use your verb to be with the passive.
By children, no?
By the children, exactly. All right, Fernanda, number 6.
The renovations will be
Completed, don't forget.
completed
Mhm.
next week.
If you want to transform we, it becomes us as an object pronoun. All right, Gustavo, number 7.
Every day. mm, mm,
Right? Same thing, same principle applies. Us. If us is the object in the active sentence, in the passive sentence, it becomes the subject. So what is the subject version of us? We. What's our verb? Pay. We are paid. Time? Every Friday. If you want to include the subject agent, you go back and put by them. All right, practice, Gustavo. We are paid every Friday by them.
We are paid every Friday by them.
Right, and remember, you don't need necessarily to have the by them. It's complementary. And Miss Acuña Lopez, you get the last one, Yaira.
They deliver? I don't know, teacher.
All right, what are we seeing here? We're seeing a question. All right, and we know that the question usually starts with either question word or an auxiliary. Now, our auxiliary verb here, did, tells us it's the past. The subject is they, and the verb is deliver. So the object is your new sofa. So that's what comes first, your new sofa. But it's still a question. So how would I start my question? With your auxiliary verb. What's my auxiliary verb for passive? Was. All right, so was your new sofa. But what was my verb? Deliver.
Deliver.
Okay, so it becomes delivered here. Was delivered is my transformation. All right, and if you want to include the subject agent, you add the by them and close off your question. Was your new sofa delivered by them? Repeat.
Was your new sofa delivered by them?
Good. All right, so that's a question form. Now, try to spot at all times what you're working with in your active sentence so you can make your transformation. And I think that's something that we probably should have seen a little bit more. So my bad. Question forms also happen in the passive voice. All right. There's some exercises here as well for you to dive in. I'll share these links with you. Go ahead and kickstart your journey into this new unit. Remember, when it comes to our units, we're now in the month of February, so we'll have 2 sessions. So this session, we conquered what was the passive. Next time, I'll focus on adverbs of time and prepositions for and since. You would have seen a little bit off already in other units, but I'll zone in on these a little bit more in detail, right? Do enjoy your weekend. Get practicing and updating your folders. And if you have any questions, do let me know. Until next time, stay safe. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you. Goodbye.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.